For nearly a century, virtually every outstanding thoroughbred in North America has come to Belmont Park to take a run at history. Reminders of the many champions that walked these grounds are constantly visible along the tree-lined backstretch roads. From the legendary Man o' War to the fabled heroes of the Triple Crown, the greats of racing have been housed in the stables of Belmont Park. The story of this grand race course also includes many prominent personalities of the turf. From August Belmont II and Harry Payne Whitney to Alfred Vanderbilt with his champion Native Dancer, to the popular Penny Chenery, who campaigned the immortal Secretariat. This track was home to the storied battle between Alydar and Affirm, and it's where superstar Seattle Slew completed his Triple Crown. Over the years, racing fans at Belmont have witnessed many of the sport's most memorable races. Today, great tradition and the modern era come together for the first time to mark an important new day in American racing. It's the Belmont Park Breeders' Cup Preview, live on NBC. Belmont Park on Long Island, just outside New York City, the grand lady of American racing, where more champions have performed than at any other site in the world of sports. It's a beautiful fall afternoon in the New York area, temperature in the 70s. After rain all day yesterday, though, the track has been drying out, now officially rated good, and the turf course is soft. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Belmont Park. I'm Tom Hammond, here to help usher in a new tradition in racing. In the years before the Breeders' Cup, many racing championships were decided in the fall races at Belmont Park. But since 1984, those races have also become preps for the Breeders' Cup events. Now, for the first time, the New York Racing Association has clustered those fall races into a single program, creating the second richest day in all of North American racing, behind only Breeders' Cup Day itself. $2.5 million up for grabs today in 6 graded stakes, 4 of them grade 1s. We'll have live coverage of the historic Jockey Club Gold Cup, the Champagne Stakes for 2-year-olds, the Beldame Stakes for fillies and mares, plus tape coverage of these races, including America's richest jumping race, the Breeders' Cup Steeplechase. Nationwide Pick 6 wagering underway around America today, and a man that I'm sure has one of those Pick 6 tickets in his pocket, one of our expert commentators, Bob Newmeyer.
Thank you very much, Tom. In this galaxy of stars we have today at Belmont Park, some people believe the best and the brightest is AP Indy. You remember him, the Derby favorite, was scratched the morning of the race with an injury, bounced back beautifully here at Belmont Park to win the big stakes in June, and then has been pointed for the Jockey Club Gold Cup and, of course, the Breeders' Cup Classic by his cagey trainer, Neil Drysdale. Trouble is, he ran a clinker in Toronto a couple of weeks ago and needs to run big again here today. Joining us again in our Breeders' Cup team, let's go down to the finish line, and Dan Kenny.
Thank you, Bob. I've got the pleasant duty this afternoon here in the winner's circle of greeting the winners of some of America's most coveted races. But we'll be talking about today's races with them with an eye towards the Breeders' Cup 3 weeks hence down at Gulfstream. To be a champion these days, you have to show up for the Breeders' Cup, and you have to perform there as well. And we'll be coming from the angle of the old Hall of Fame trainer, Horatio Luro. It's important to win today, but don't squeeze the lemon too dry. Now let's welcome the newest member of our NBC racing team down in the paddock, Gail Gardner.
Okay, thank you very much, Dan. As you might imagine, races are not just randomly named. Just take a look at today's key races. The Beldame, named after the great mare that was actually bred by August Belmont himself. The Champagne Stakes, the oldest stakes race for 2-year-olds in the United States, and the winner gets to drink a glass of champagne. And of course, the Jockey Club Gold Cup. And we're really talking about gold here, an $850,000 purse. Time now to join Tom Hammond for the start of the Beldame.
All right, Gail, this is the 54th running of the Beldame. The purse, $250,000. It's for fillies and mares, so we'll get a line here on the Breeders' Cup Distaff coming up October 31st. The distance, 1 1/8, and here are the current odds. Saratoga Dew is a 3-year-old filly. She's won 7 of 9 starts and is a contender for champion 3-year-old filly honors. She's held at 2-1 by the bettors, but the favorite is Versailles Treaty, the consistent one. She's never been worse than 3rd in 18 career starts. You may remember her from Breeders' Cup Day last year. She was 2nd in the Breeders' Cup Distaff in 1991. She's earned over $1 million in her racing career. Well, the voice of New York racing is also the voice of the Breeders' Cup. High atop the stands here with the best seat in the house, track announcer Tom Durkin. Tom?
And a view of a very big racetrack indeed. Here at Belmont Park, 1 1/8 races are run around one turn. It's the only track in America where you can do that. A 5-furlong run out of the chute to the far turn. And with that long run, it is absolutely key not to get lured early on into a speed duel. There are 3 horses here that do have that early speed, front-running types. Saratoga Do, there you see her. Galford Gordo also likes the lead, and Train Robbery. The riders will have to be particularly careful not to avoid or not to get into a serious confrontation early. Horses have reached the starting gate. They are at the post. Saratoga Do, that pretty pom-pom in her hair. A Galford Gordo, you'll see her with some early speed. Versailles Treaty, the race sets up well for her. Train Robbery is moving in. Coxwold was a little washy in the post parade. She was all lathered up around the neck. That's not a good sign. There you see her sweating somewhat profusely. Waiting for the favorite, Versailles Treaty. Versailles Treaty moving in. Ready for a start to the 54th.
You got him!
And they're off. Versailles Treaty worked well. A Galford Gordo is right there toward the inside. Galford Gordo will take the early lead. Saratoga Do now has room to run through toward the rail. On the outside, Train Robbery is right there, and Versailles Treaty is up close to the early pace. 5 lengths back to Coxwold as they leave the chute and continue their long run up the backstretch. Herb McCauley sends Saratoga Do to the lead. And the opening quarter in a brisk 22 4/5 seconds. And Saratoga Do opens up by 2.5 lengths. Train Robbery is second. And Versailles Treaty is rating just off the lead on the outside third. A Galford Gordo is now fourth. 6 lengths back to an unhurried Coxwold as they continue up the backstretch. 5 furlongs from home. Saratoga Do by a length. Train Robbery in close pursuit. Versailles Treaty sitting off a very fast pace here. Got a half in 45 3/5 seconds. Saratoga Do blazes the way around the far turn. She's moving at a lively pace and leads by a length and a half. Versailles Treaty poised on the outside as they approach the midway point on the turn. And then it's Train Robbery. Coxwold is now commencing her bid. 5 lengths from the lead. A Galford Gordo has been left behind, and they're moving toward the top of the stretch. Saratoga Do still resisting the challenge of Versailles Treaty. Coxwold is third. Train Robbery is fourth. Turning for home, Herb McCauley asking everything he has of Saratoga Do, and she is responding. Saratoga Do leads by 3 with a furlong to run, leaving Versailles Treaty in her wake. At the 16th pole, Saratoga Do is pouring it on. Absolutely impressive to win the Beldame wire to wire. It's a stroll home under the line. She won by 5.5. Versailles Treaty was second best today, and Coxwold was third. The time for the race was 1 minute 46 4/5 seconds. Saratoga Do is setting a brisk pace, and she had plenty left for the stretch here at Belmont this afternoon.
All right, Tom Durkin, a very impressive performance by the New York-bred 3-year-old filly Saratoga Do, the unofficial winner of the Beldame. Pleased now to welcome John Veach back to our NBC microphones. He's been with us at the Breeders' Cup the last few years, one of America's best trainers. In fact, the trainer of Alydar. It was right on this track that he and Affirmed had that great Belmont Stakes battle, and of course also the winner of the Breeders' Cup Classic with Proud Truth when it was held over at Aqueduct. John, what do you make of this victory by Saratoga Do, the 3-year-old filly?
Well, it was an exceptional performance for her. The thing that probably was the key is that she likes a little bit of an off track, and in her last race she got that, and she's done well in the mud before. An exceptionally good race. She looked like at the head of the stretch she was getting a little weak, and she just dropped it into another gear and took off again.
You might talk about the track. It has been drying out. Early in the day, the times were very fast as the track was, as they say, sealed, squeezed to keep the moisture on the top. But now that the moisture is in, the time's much slower. But this has been a great performance by Saratoga Do, as you see the reaction of her connections after this impressive win.
Well, you're right, Tom. This morning, this racetrack was a sea of mud. At daybreak, nobody thought it could be in this condition. Joe King, track superintendent for the NYRA, and his crew have done a Herculean job cleaning this place up. They've rolled it, they've scraped it, they've harrowed it. In the early part of the day, they had sealed it to scrape and get every ounce of moisture out. Now it's back into an excellent racetrack. The time, only a 1/5 of a second off the track record, shows that the track is in excellent condition.
Big performance by Saratoga Do and the Beldame. We'll be back to Belmont Park for more racing in just a moment.
This is NBC's Sports World, and today it's brought to you by Toyota and their full line of quality cars and trucks. Toyota, I love what you do for me. By Budweiser, the king of beers, with that clean, crisp, cold taste, nothing beats a Bud. By MasterCard, master the moment with a card that's accepted at nearly 10 million places worldwide. And by Breeders' Cup Pick 7, October 29th, 30th, or 31st. At a simulcast track near you, you could win millions.
He is of Belmont Park, founded in 1905 as the Ascot of America. In fact, they ran clockwise like they do in England here for the first few years. The only track in America to do that. Saratoga Do with a big performance in the Beldame. Let's go to the winner's circle and Dan Kenny.
Well, Tom, this is the type of horse that you just don't know what to expect when the season begins. Unraced as a 2-year-old, a New York bred. Nobody knew much about this horse. Now with 8 out of 10, the 3-year-old championship is very much within the grasp of Saratoga Do. She missed by a nose in the Travers in the mud to November snow, but she is now clearly the favorite. And here joining me now is Gary Siaka, the trainer. Gary, assuming that all is well health-wise, what will be your tactic in heading to the Breeders' Cup?
We're going to probably, everything goes okay. We're going to try to fly her out this week and get her adjusted to Florida. She was just an unbelievable race today.
Well, great job. We'll see you in Miami. And Tom Hammond, back to you.
All right, Dan, Saratoga Do maybe taking a giant step toward that 3-year-old filly championship, and certainly one to be considered in the Breeders' Cup Distaff at Gulfstream Park on October 31st. She paid $6 in winning the Beldame. Now let's go to Gail Gardner.
Sports card collecting and trading has become big business in America. We have, of course, the usual, like Gary Clark and David Robbins and Wayne Gretzky and Barry Bonds of the Pirates finally winning a game last night. But now we have a whole set of jockey cards as well, a list of riders from the past and present who make up over hundreds and hundreds of riders, the great riders in history. And you will see some of those key riders in today's races. First of all, the Champagne Stakes, we have Chris Antley, and he will be aboard Strolling Along. Then Julie Crone, one of a number of women in this card set, and she is on press card. Mike Smith, who will be on D. Wayne Lucas trained horse, bonus award. And then in the Jockey Club Gold Cup, former Derby winner Gary Stevens, he will be on Pleasant Tap. And we have a number of riders who will be in both races, the Champagne and the Gold. Jerry Bailey, he's in the Gold Cup, and he'll be aboard Sultry Song. 3-time Eclipse Award winner Pat Day on Devil His Due. And then the winner of all 3 Triple Crown races, Eddie Delahousse, he'll be riding AP Indy. Kent DeSormo, he won a record-setting 598 races in 1989. He's on Missionary Ridge. And then we have the veteran Herb McCauley getting his shot on a New York-bred horse, Thunder Rumble. And finally, Craig Perret, who won the Belmont in '87, the Derby in '90, and he will be on probably the best-known horse in the race, Strike the Gold. Now, these cards are for sale, and portions of the proceeds will go to the Jockey Guild for riders who have retired. Right now, though, let's go to Tom Hammond. And Tom, you know, I understand they have sportscaster cards as well, but somehow you and I didn't quite make the cut.
I guess you're right, Gail, although I will trade you 3 John Maddens for 1 Pat Day card. I'll see you after the races. Let's turn our attention now to the 2-year-old fillies in the Frizette Stakes. This will give us a line on the Breeders' Cup juvenile fillies, although the probable champion in this division, Sky Beauty, is currently sidelined by injury. Here are the odds, and the fans have settled on 2 horses. They like Educated Risk at 3-2 and Beale Street Blues at 7-5. Keep your eye on the 7 horse here, Try in the Sky, 14-1 shot, trained by my partner John Veach. Here are some of the primary contenders. Beale Street Blues, undefeated in her 3 starts, John.
Right, Tom, and at this stage of the game, multiple stakes winner after only 3 starts. You certainly can't take anything away from her. Educated Risk, again, kind of a local favorite, very credible second to Sky Beauty here in the Matron a couple of weeks ago. Really another standout in the field.
And Shug McGahee, the hot trainer of Educated Risk, thinks she'll improve off that run in the Matron. Standard Equipment is a horse to watch. The 6 horse was troubled in a trip behind Sky Beauty in the Spinaway Stakes at Saratoga.
Right. She was virtually eliminated at the start and came back and ran a credible second. Very tough filly, very consistent before that, and certainly can't be discounted today.
And of course, we got to take a look at your horse here, the 7 horse. Try in the Sky, raced a lot in Canada, was also in that Spinaway.
Right, and she's been very consistent in Canada, never off the board in a number of starts, 7 starts, and tried her on the grass last, trying to avoid Sky Beauty. She didn't like the grass, and she didn't like Sky Beauty either.
All right, Tom Durkin, 2-year-old filly, is going 1 mile here.
Yes, and it's 1 mile and 1 turn here at the big ball yard we call Belmont. No need to get into a hurry going into that first turn for position. It's almost a half-mile run before they hit the first and only turn here. Contrasting styles for the 2 favorites. Educated Risk does her best running up close to the pace, and Beale Street Blues will do her best running late. The final horses now moving into line, waiting for Standard Equipment, Try in the Sky, and Aztec Hill. Outside horses moving in. Aztec Hill is another one that will be doing her running late. John Beecher's horse, Try in the Sky, moves in there. And on the outside, Aztec Hill completes the field of 8 fillies for this 8 furlongs of the 45th Frisette. They're in the gate. Fillies standing in good order here.
No. You got him.
And they're off. And it's Try in the Sky, who's away quickly and toward the inside. Gales Falcon is there, but in the middle of the pack, Lady Starlet and Beale Street Blues is up close early. Educated Risk was off to a bit of a tardy start, but she's making progress early and moves into 3rd position. Gales Falcon with the lead on the outside. Lady Starlet, Educated Risk running eagerly in between those 2 now. Try in the Sky on the outside running 4th. Beale Street Blues is now 5th by 2. Standard Equipment 6th toward the inside, followed by Overruler. Aztec Hill is content to run well behind as they continue their run up the backstretch. The opening quarter went in 23 seconds flat. Educated Risk has now assumed the lead as the field moves into the far turn. Lady Starlet is coming after her. Try in the Sky putting in her run now. She's 3rd on the outside. Standard Equipment is now 4th through a half in 46 3. Beale Street Blues is 5th on the outside, and now she's beginning to pick it up as they move to the midway point on the turn. Educated Risk holding on to the lead by a half length. Lady Starlet right there pressing. Try in the Sky is 3 wide. Beale Street Blues is called on for her run as they approach the quarter pole. Standard Equipment is in behind the lead and shielding running room as they turn for home. Educated Risk now spurts away from them at the top of the stretch. Standard Equipment moves strongly into 2nd. Beale Street Blues trying to come with her rally on the extreme outside, but she's 6 lengths behind Educated Risk. Educated Risk comes to the 16th pole in front by 2. Standard Equipment with 1 last try to get her. Beale Street Blues will be 3rd. Educated Risk does it by a length and a quarter. Standard Equipment was 2nd. Beale Street Blues was a well-beaten 3rd. And the final time here was 1 minute 36 3/5 seconds. Educated Risk looking as if she had something in reserve for her appointment in Miami.
Well, down the stretch, it was Educated Risk. She didn't break all that well under Jerry Bailey, but he rushed her right into contention. John Veach, she took the lead at the head of the stretch and was much the best here.
Oh, by far, tons the best. I think that Jerry had seen the previous races on the dirt and realized that you really had to be in contention by the time you reached the head of the stretch. He rushed her a little bit down the backside. It certainly didn't take anything away from her, and she was tons the best coming to home.
So Denny Phipps' Educated Risk, a Mr. Prospector filly, wins the Frisette with Standard Equipment 2nd, and they're singing the blues at Lazy Lane Farm as Beale Street Blues taste defeat for the first time in her career. This sets up Educated Risk now as the probable favorite for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile fillies. Still much to come on Breeders' Cup Preview Day at Belmont Park. We'll be back. Welcome back to Belmont Park, where the 2-year-olds are making their way toward the paddock for America's oldest stakes race for 2-year-olds, the 1-mile Champagne Stakes, first run in 1897 at Jerome Park. Well, not only we have the races here at Belmont today, but this is an important weekend for Breeders' Cup preps at Santa Anita and the Spinster Stakes at Keeneland tomorrow. Then they come from all points of the compass to Gulfstream Park Breeders' Cup Day. Hope you'll join us here on NBC. Earlier today, fillies and mares took the track for the 7-furlong first flight handicap. And on the outside, that shared interest under Jerry Bailey that moves by to take the lead from favored Missy's Mirage. Shared interest, a Pleasant Colony filly trained by Scotty Schulhofer, pulling away to win it in this field that had only 4 betting interests. There was no show betting. Shared interest only a 1/5 of a second off the track record, although the track was very different then. It had been squeezed to reduce the moisture and was fast. Then to the turf course for the Kelso Handicap, where Roman Envoy fell to the front and made it a wire-to-wire score. Now this horse is not nominated to the Breeders' Cup, but Roman Envoy under Craig Perrette gets the victory for his owner, Fred W. Hooper, now in his 90s. Roman Envoy paying $840, $4.0280. Lure was second, and Val Dubois finished third. And the crowd awaiting the horses for the champagne. You want some caviar with your champagne? What about these ritzy winners? 21 champions have won the champagne, and a couple of champions were disqualified from champagne wins. Secretariat and Hoist the Flag. Quite a list of talented champagne winners, including in 77, Alidar as a 2-year-old trained by John Veach. Well, the champagne has a great tradition in that the winning owner is presented with a Jeroboam of champagne. That's 104 ounces of the bubbly. There's a great story back in 1940. The great jockey Eddie R. Carroll, Hall of Famer, won the race on Monday lunch. And as they were presenting the champagne to the winning owner, Eddie R. Carroll grabbed it and took off running. He tripped and fell, but neither jockey nor champagne were injured. We're told that Eddie didn't spill a drop, as he didn't do many times in his career. So the champagne goes to the winning owner today, a Jeroboam of it. And right now we have more about horses in the champagne from Bob Newmeyer.
Joining me here in the paddock, 2 of this sport's finest trainers. On your left is Scotty Schulhofer. On your right is Shug McGahee. Shug's won this race 3 times in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile once, but never with the same horse. Does that suggest this is a tough parlay?
Bob, I hope not. You know, I think that really that the 3 that didn't win it were maybe victim of circumstances a little bit, and one of those possibilities could be that we used to make Cad and Champagne. The Cad was 2 weeks in front of the Champagne. Now went Futurity, which was 3 weeks before the Champagne, and 3 weeks to the Breeders' Cup. And Rhythm came out of being second to Champagne to win the Breeders' Cup in Florida. So, you know, I hope it's not, because we're sure in here today coming off of, you know, trying to parlay that back into the Breeders' Cup again.
Your charge today is named Strolling Along. You've put a shadow roll, an equipment change. Why?
I think just to try to get him a little bit more consistent. He goes with his head up in there a little farther than you'd really like for 1-2, and to try to maybe set his action a little bit better in his racing and his training too. And, you know, I think maybe it could have helped some.
This gentleman, Scotty Schulhofer, has won both the Champagne and the Breeders' Cup Juvenile with the same horse, Fly So Free. Seems to me you're bringing tactical advantage up to this race the same way you did Fly So Free, no?
Yes, we've kind of given him a little bit more time between his races, and we ran him in Saratoga, and hopefully he didn't have the best of trips, and we're hoping that come back, we give him a little time, didn't go into Futurity, coming back for the Champagne, and we hope that we can run good here and then come back to the Breeders' Cup in 3 weeks.
Of course, Scotty also has Press Card as part of a very powerful 2-horse entry here in the Champagne Stakes on Breeders' Cup Preview Day. Good luck, gentlemen.
All right, Bob, it will be the 121st running of the Champagne Stakes for the 2-year-olds going 1 mile for that $500,000 purse. And here's a look at the current odds, the entry, Schulhofer entry, 3-1. And Shug McGahee's horse Strolling Along is at 7-2. Dalhart right now ranks as the 9-5 favorite. The horses will be on the track for the Champagne when we return to Belmont. Welcome back to Belmont Park on Breeders' Cup Preview Day. Beautiful afternoon, and the track still drying out, as we mentioned earlier, listed as good as we come up to the 121st running of the Champagne, which will probably establish the favorite for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile coming up at Gulfstream Park on October 31st. It was 50 years ago today that Count Fleet set a world record for 2-year-olds, 1 mile in 1:34 4/5 in winning the Champagne Stakes. Let's recheck the odds now, as we had a surprise favorite in Dalhart the last time we checked in on the odds, and we wonder if he is still the public choice here in the betting. And we see that the entry still 3-1. Dalhart is still the favorite. I think Dalhart is at 2-1. Now 9-5. So Dalhart continues to reign as the favorite, with Strolling Along the second choice at 5-2. John Veach, the Champagne is a race you have won, and certainly among the 2-year-old set, it is one of the most prestigious in America.
Oh, it is, without a doubt. You know, and the thing about this race with the 2-year-olds, it makes it so interesting, is that you'll see a 2-year-old throw in a bad race every once in a while, and it's not because of lack of ability, it's more like lack of a seasoning. They sometimes get in situations where they don't know how to respond or how to act. But if you look at this race, it's very, very closely matched, and there's some horses in here that have won some wonderful races, and very impressive.
Let's go to the post parade now and take a look at the 2-year-olds that will contest the 1-mile Champagne Stakes. And as we mentioned, there is an entry in here, the Scotty Schulhofer trained entry, 1 and 1A, coupled in the betting. That will be Tactical Advantage and Press Card. Interesting to note that Julie Crone has ridden both halves of that entry at times and has elected to be aboard a Press Card in the race this afternoon. Number 1 is Tactical Advantage, who is half of that entry. Eddie Delahousie, Eddie D up. This horse won the Saratoga Special. And the other half is 1A Press Card with Julie Crone in the saddle. This is a half-brother to the top mare Althea. He won his only race by 9 lengths. Number 2 is Sea Hero, trained by one of the great guys in racing, Mac Miller, and ridden by one of the top riders here at Belmont, Jerry Bailey. Number 3 is Packhouse Road. Has only a maiden win to his credit. Number 4, Bonus Award, a Meadowland Stakes winner from Team Lucas. Number 5, Secret Odds, Maryland-based, with Kent DeSormo aboard for the first time. Number 6, and the surprising public betting choice of the moment, is Dalhart. Hall of Famer Pat Day aboard. Dalhart has won 2 of his 3 career starts. Number 7 is Great Navigator, upset winner of the prestigious Hopeful Stakes closing day at Saratoga. Number 8 is Strolling Along, wearing that shadow roll for the first time. Shug McGahee went till September before winning a major race. He's been winning everything since then, and Strolling Along took the 7-furlong futurity here. And number 9, Fight for Love, based in Florida. He was second in the futurity. And in the paddock, Gail Gardner is with us to visit with a familiar New York face. Gail?
All right, with the Champagne Stakes coming up, I couldn't think of a better setup for that race than a man who has won it twice in his lifetime. In fact, last year, he is a Hall of Famer, has won over 7,000 races, and one of the most popular figures ever on the track. Here is Angel Cordero. Angel, former jockey, now trainer. And I know you had that terrible spill at Aqueduct, I think that everybody knows about, where you had to have your spleen removed. How are you doing?
I feel much better. I start getting on horses, and my weight is good, and I feel much better, and just feel much better and happy to be around the horses again.
Okay. Let me ask you, I'm used to seeing you in the victory circle, and that sight of you always pumping your arm in the air as you come down after winning a race. Is there a little part of you that maybe wants to come back at some point in time?
Sometimes I miss riding. On days like today, Kentucky Derby, Belmont, Breeders' Cup, I miss riding a lot. And I wish I was there, but I don't think I'm going to come back again. This is it for me.
Okay. Now, I know you've been training, and you've been working with your wife, Marjorie, and you have won a couple of races with horses that you've trained. And I guess what I'd like to know from you is, what makes a good trainer? Because there are a lot of people who saw in you the ability to be a good trainer. What do you think they saw?
Well, I don't know about me, but what makes a good trainer is consistency, dedication, honesty, and be able to have a lot of patience like it takes to be a good jockey, or to take to be any good professional. You have to get lucky and be together with the right people. When you're together with the right people, the rest just fall into places.
And what is maybe the key thing in terms of spotting a good horse?
Spotting a good horse, I guess, after I rode him for 32 years, I guess it's easier for me to know a good horse on the make because I rode so many of them. And it'll be easy for me to spot a good horse. And when a good horse is out, it's like a loaded gun. It goes off on anybody's hands.
Okay, Angel Cordero, thank you. The best to you as always. We will take a break. When we come back, you will get to see the Champagne Stakes live.
Well, which owner will be toasting with champagne tonight? The horses are approaching the starting gate for the 121st running of the Champagne Stakes. Let's go to Bob Newmeyer for his pre-race analysis.
All right, Tom Hammond, thank you very much. The Champagne is for 2-year-olds. These are developing horses, unpredictable ones. You never know when the flower will bloom, so to speak. This is a very evenly matched field of horses who have done well at distances of 6 and 7 furlongs. But can they stretch that speed to the Champagne distance of 1 mile? One horse Tom Hammond talked about earlier is Dalhart, and one reason why he's being bet so heavily is that he has won at a mile, and very impressively here at Belmont Park. I kind of like Sea Hero as a long shot off the turf with Mac Miller. For the call of the Champagne, up to Tom Durkin.
And the distance, of course, for the Champagne is 1 mile. The odds there updated. The Schohofer entry at 3-1. As a matter of fact, just a flash of the tote board made them 5-2. And we'll run down the rest of the field. Dalhart is a slight favorite here, going off at 2-1, despite his relative inexperience. And strolling along, the would-be East Coast leading 2-year-old. There's a Secret Odds. Already in the starting gate is Great Navigator. He was backed into the starting gate. There you see him out there way on the outside with those blue and pink colors. Dalhart is there. And Dalhart is moving in. Waiting for Great Navigator, strolling along. And Fight for Love. Tactical Advantage is taking his spot. Right alongside him will be his stablemate Press Card. As Tom mentioned, Julie Crone has ridden both Tactical Advantage and Press Card. She opted for Press Card today, but Press Card, there you see, he is sweating a bit going into the starting gate. That's not a positive sign at all. Nonetheless, he moves in, and we're waiting for the 2 outside horses strolling along. They'll be wearing the familiar colors of the Phipps stable, black and cherry red, perhaps the most famous colors in all of American racing right now, and Fight for Love on the outside. They were 1-2 in the futurity here at Belmont Park. It is a 1-turn mile, a very long run down the backstretch here. It's almost a half mile before they reach the first and only turn. Fight for Love is in the gate, ready for his start to the 121st Champagne Stakes. And they're off. And Great Navigator comes out running. Strolling along is also right there. Secret Odds down inside. Packhouse Road flashing good speed. Fight for Love is also up close. But the fastest of them all is Great Navigator. And Secret Odds will confront him early. It's 2 lengths to Packhouse Road toward the inside. Strolling along is in between horses. 4 wide down the back stretches. Fight for Love. Dalhart kept within 3.5 lengths of the lead. Sea Hero moves through an opening toward the inside. Then Bonus Award and stablemate's Tactical Advantage and Press Card are the final 2 as they continue their run up the backstretch. The quarter in 22 seconds flat. Dazzling opening fractions here. And it is Secret Odds who now tries to shake loose from Great Navigator. Sea Hero right there just off the lead, and he's running well in 3rd position. And now Chris Antley asking more from strolling along. He's 4th on the outside. Bonus Award is 5th, and Packhouse Road. And in behind those 2, Tactical Advantage and Press Card. Dalhart is retreating. He's well behind. They're coming toward the top of the stretch. Half sensational 44 and 3/5 seconds. Secret Odds running the race of his 2-year-old life. But Sea Hero is right at his neck on the outside, and they're 3/16 off Sea Hero. Charging hard now on the outside. Secret Odds is battling bravely, and the others are well behind. Press Card is a distant 3rd, and strolling along is now 4th. And it's going to be Sea Hero, a new 2-year-old star. Look at him charge under the line and then win, going away by 5. Secret Odds was 2nd, and Press Card was 3rd, equaling the ancient stakes record here of 1 minute 34 and 4/5 seconds. Absolutely spectacular. Sea Hero wins the Champagne in an upset.
Sea Hero from the Rokeby stables, trained by Mac Miller, a Polish Navy colt, equaling the Champagne Stakes record with a powerful move through the stretch. Bob Newmeyer mentioned in his pre-race analysis that he liked this colt, and he has established himself as the favorite now for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, as Jerry Bailey records his third win of the day. Impressive time, and he had mudcocks. John, is that significant?
It must be. He's the only horse in the race that had them on. They're on the bottoms of the shoes. They act like cleats or spikes. They stop a horse from slipping when they hit the bottom of the racetrack, and they give them great confidence. And apparently they work for him.
Well, the Champagne toast to Sea Hero, the unofficial winner of the Champagne Stakes, with Secret Odds second and Press Card getting up for third. Still to come, the Breeders' Cup Steeplechase. Tom Hammond and John Veach again at Belmont Park, where the crowd is still buzzing about the performance by Sea Hero on the outside here as he moves to take the lead in the stretch. And John, the second horse, Secret Odds, hanging in there after setting some blazy early fractions, 22 flat and 44 and 3.
There's no doubt about that, Tom. Secret Odds showed great courage here. I mean, running head and head with great Navigator for the first half mile in very fast fractions, 22, 44, 3/4 and 9. And, you know, it took a lot out of that horse, but you certainly can't take anything away from the winner, Sea Hero. It was his track today and just did a super job. Probably we looked at or saw the leading candidate for two-year-old champion now.
You know, John, racing is so unusual. Earlier in the year, Mac Miller and the Rokeby stable, they had a two-year-old called England Expects that they thought was going to be their new star. They've had such bad luck in recent years with excellent two-year-olds that for a variety of physical ailments never made it to the classic races, the Derby and so on. And here is somebody new from them that no one thought would be this quality. Sea Hero emerges now as perhaps the leader of his division.
That's what two-year-olds can do for you. They can be an ugly duckling one day and king for a day the next. But this horse certainly is impressive, coming off a race on the turf and making that transition and running over a very tough racetrack for a young horse. Super job, Mac Miller, and certainly Paul Mellon deserves this. A wonderful sportsman.
Paul Mellon, the owner of the Rokeby stables, one of the last of the really gentleman owners that breed for their own racing stable. And Sea Hero winning his first start in Stakes Company is with the winning trainer, Mac Miller. Dan?
Mac, congratulations. Mr. Mellon, congratulations to you. Now, Mr. Mellon just wrote a bestseller. His memoirs perhaps will have to add another chapter.
I think he will. This is one of the great thrills of my life, certainly not of his because he's had so many. But I want to tell you, this is something I've dreamt of.
How about the Breeders' Cup? On to the Breeders' Cup?
Yeah, well, if he lets me, yes.
Mr. Mellon?
I'll let him. Yes, I will.
Okay, well, we'll see you down in Florida. And Bob Neumeyer's got winning jockey Jerry Bailey.
All right, Dan Kenny, what a day for Jerry Bailey, a three-bagger with his wife here who's expecting a child soon, and the Baileys are growing, and so is your reputation as one of the finest big race riders. Sea Hero, I thought he could handle this stuff. He was a monster on the turf, and the mud was no problem as well.
No, it didn't seem to be. I worked him the other morning in the mud, and he really handled it well. The only question was the track was playing speed all day, and he comes from behind, so that was the only concern today.
Congratulations to the Baileys on a
Thank
big
you.
win. All right,
Thanks.
Sea Hero wins. Great to pick a winner, Tom. Back to you.
Indeed, especially if you wagered a bob or two. 1960 for Sea Hero. Secret Odds was second. Press Card with a late run got third. That 2-5 exacta payoff, $515, as Sea Hero now heads to the Breeders' Cup as the juvenile favorite. All right, Bob, this is the first of the Breeders' Cup Championship races. The steeplechase traditionally held before Breeders' Cup Day itself, and it is America's richest steeplechase with that purse of $250,000. Morley Street, Irish bred and English trained, won the last two. In fact, American trained horses have taken 3 of these steeplechases, and European horses have won 3. Here, a look at the odds. There are 2 entries in this race. The 2-horse Burley Cox trained entry, the 1 and 1A, and Hall of Fame trainer Jonathan Shepard sending postward a powerful 4-horse entry that is the betting favorite at 6-5. Young Pokey, a European invader, is at 9-5, the second choice, and you see Victorian Hill, one of the outsiders in the betting. There are some Breeders' Cup veterans in this field. One of those would be Yaw for the second straight year. He won the New York Turf Riders Cup at Saratoga. This is his 3rd Breeders' Cup chase. He was 5th in the race last year. Highland Bud, another veteran, as you saw moments ago. He is a former Breeders' Cup steeplechase winner. He took the race in 1989. Victorian Hill, Owned by William Lickle, the richest steeplechase racer in American racing, $523,000 in earnings. Well, this is the second time the steeplechase has been at Belmont Park, and they have the traditional walk-up start. For a course description, let's go up to Tom Durkin.
They will negotiate 16 fences over their tour of the inner turf course here at Belmont this afternoon. They'll be going around a bit more than twice, and stamina is the key. The distance 2 miles and 5/8. The final time for this race should be somewhere around the 5-minute mark. The horses getting ready for the start here. As Tom mentioned, there is no starting gate in steeplechase racing. It's simply a walk-up start. The starter's duty here is to get all the horses facing in the same direction. The start really isn't too key with such a long distance to go. And they are off and on their way in the Breeders' Cup steeplechase. And the first away there was Yaw as he leaps over the first of 16 fences toward the inside. Young Pokey is running second, and Victorian Hill is there. Sassello's between horses running fourth as they take that second fence. Then on the outside, it's Chief of the Clan. Highland Bud is now making some progress in between horses now. He's only about 3 lengths from the lead. And then farther back are Double Bill on the outside, Hero's Hour toward the inside, and the final horse is Mystico as they move around the first turn here. Really in no hurry in the early going, and dictating a very easy early pace there is Yaw. He's leading by 2 lengths from Young Pokey, who's well in hand, now running in second position. 7-year-old Victorian Hill on the outside. Steeplechasing's all-time money winner, reserved in 3rd position in the early going, and Francis Sassello is in behind the early flight, running in 4th place. Highland Bud is racing 5th toward the inside. On the outside, it's Chief of the Clan. Moving through now, in between horses is Colt Cockburn. Toward the inside, it's Hero's Hour there. He's running toward the back of the pack. On the outside, Double Bill, and still allowed to trail early is Mystico, and they're all leaping well as they continue midway down the backstretch for the first time. All up and over well. And it's still Yaw who's leading the way and leading easily at this point. Young Pokey is running second, and Victorian Hill is up close to a very moderate early pace. Sassello's right there in between horses. Highland Bud is 5th and only 2 lengths from the lead. It's a tight pack. Chief of the Clan is running 6th in between horses now. Then Hero's Hour toward the inside. On the outside, it's Double Bill, Cockburn, and trailing throughout in the early going. Here it's Mystico. There's about 7 lengths from front to back as they make their way around the turn. It's still Yaw and Jonathan Smart just sitting motionless on him. On the outside, it's Victorian Hill now, and he might come on to prompt the pace as they enter the stretch here with 1 more lap to go. Sassello, the French runner, is in behind Yaw. Then toward the inside, it's Young Pokey running forward. Highland Bud right there, and they all took the fence quite well as Yaw continues to lead the Breeders' Cup steeplechase. Sassello's in between horses, a little eager to run now. On the outside, Victorian Hill is right there. He's been just off the early lead throughout. Young Pokey is running 4th toward the inside now with another lap to go. And there goes Chief of the Clan, and he really sailed over that fence. Followed by Mystico, who's now only 3 lengths from the lead. Highland Bud is right there in behind the early runners. And on the outside, it's Double Bill, and still near the back are Cockburn and Hero's Hour. Joe Walsh is asking him for a bit more run as the field moves into the turn. And it's Chief of the Clan now, who's come on to take the lead. On the outside, Victorian Hill is right there, and Sassello's in between horses. Pulling up there, Hero's Hour. Hero's Hour has been pulled up at the back of the pack. It's Victorian Hill leading as they make their way toward the backstretch. Chief of the Clan is right there, and Sassello is in behind them running 3rd. Mystico on the outside is now 4th. Young Pokey, who was up close early, he's retreated back in the 5th position. He's fallen 4.5 lengths off the lead. Highland Bud is alongside him. And then farther back, it's Double Bill toward the inside, Cockburn on the outside. Yaw, who led earlier, is now well behind as they continue their run up the backstretch. 3 of them now across the course. Victorian Hill, there goes Francis Sassello. And Sassello is now grabbed a short lead. Mystico comes bursting through. And with a burst of energy, it's Mystico now charging to the lead. And he's opening up as they move into the far turn. And Mystico sails over the fence now. He's leading by 2. Victorian Hill is there on the outside. Sassello now moves into second. Victorian Hill is now running in 3rd position. They continue on the far turn. It's still Mystico leading the way. Cicelo chasing him hard. Highland Bud, the 89 winner, is right there. He's in with a chance, running third toward the inside. Victorian Hill is now fourth by 5. Chief of the Clan is weakened, and then Double Bill on the outside, 6th. They're moving toward the top of the stretch with Mystico to catch. Cicelo's there on the outside. Highland Bud is still strong as they turn for home now. They're set down for the drive. On the outside, Cicelo driving hard. Highland Bud comes charging on through over that last fence. Highland Bud grabs the lead now. It's Highland Bud in front. Mystico there toward the inside. And farther back, Cicelo is third. And here's the sprint down to the line. Highland Bud leading by 2.5 lengths as they come near the finish. Mystico is giving chase on Cicelo, and they're coming down to the line. Highland Bud wins it. Another win in the Breeders' Cup Steeplechase. His mate, Mystico, is second, and Cicelo is third.
Entering the final turn, Highland Bud is 4th, and John, he was really never far back off the pace the entire race.
That's right, Tom. And the key here is, with a soft going, that he had to be well placed. With 2 fences left, he was well placed 4th. He runs in to the second fence, jumps it well, sails over the last fence, just goes for home here, flying, very powerful, very strong.
That final fence proving decisive as Highland Bud moves by Mystico, and under the urging of Richard Dunwoody, wins his second Breeders' Cup Steeplechase. Dan Kenny with the winning trainer and jockey.
Jonathan Shepard is the Dean of Steeplechase Racing in America, a second Breeders' Cup victory 3 years apart. What happened to Highland Bud between 89 and 92?
Well, Dan, we had some leg problems with him, obviously. As these horses get older, it's kind of hard to keep them together. But he's a good enough horse so that it's worth giving him the time, because we know he's capable of winning a big one when he comes back, if he comes back in shape. And fortunately, it all fell together today. Richard gave him a beautiful ride, and there we are.
Well, speaking of Richard, he rode him again to a 10-length win in 89. A little tougher race today, but still a high-class horse.
Yes, he's given me a smashing ride. I used to ride the horse in England, and he finished second in some good races over there. And always travelled well today, jumped very well, and had a good lead. He's done it very nicely.
Well, 2 years in a row for Morley Street, now a second steeplechase for Highland Bud.
All right, Dan, and here are the official results in the 7th Breeders' Cup Steeplechase. Highland Bud, part of that favored 4-horse Shepherd-trained entry, the winner, with entry mate Mystico second, and Cicelo from France finishing third. And making the presentation, Daniel G. Van Cleef Jr., Executive Director of Breeders' Cup Limited, to winning owner Jesse M. Henley Jr.
And welcome back to Belmont Park. A beautiful day at Belmont Park as we await the final and certainly most prestigious race of the day, the Jockey Club Gold Cup. And that's coming up in just a few minutes. They're getting set for the post-parade. And as they do, we're going to take a little time out and go to New York to join Hannah Storm for the Prudential update. Here's Hannah.
Thanks, Gail. Well, a busy afternoon in college football. And let's start by...
The centerpiece of the Breeders' Cup preview day at Belmont Park, still to come, the 74th running of the Jockey Club Gold Cup with a purse of $850,000. A prep race, of course, for the Breeders' Cup Classic, the world's richest race. The distance here is 1.25 miles, although for most of its history, the Jockey Club Gold Cup has been contested over 2 miles. It was first run at 1.25 miles at 1990. Let's look at the odds now. Sultry Song, 7-2, as is Strike the Gold. 9-2, Thunder Rumble, one of the 3-year-olds in the field. AP Indy, another 3-year-old, currently ranking as the 5-2 lukewarm favorite. Pleasant Tap is at 4-1. This race was inaugurated in 1919, and in that year, Purchase won it in a walkover. The 4 other horses scheduled to run were scratched. He walked over and collected the purse. We talked about the 3-year-olds in the field. Only 4 3-year-olds have won in the last 22 runnings of this race. But here are some 24-carat solid gold nuggets for this Gold Cup. Look at the list of horses that have won this race, beginning with Man of War in 1920. One of the greatest horses ever. Kelso, the gallant gelding, won it 5 successive times. He was Horse of the Year in each of those years. A couple of other great geldings, Forgo and John Henry, notched a Gold Cup win. And as you see the riders up in the paddock, they'll be making their way toward the racetrack. And John Veach, your dad, Sylvester Veach, won the Jockey Club Gold Cup twice.
Yes, he did. Probably the best work he ever did was with a horse called Counterpoint, who as a 3-year-old went on to be Horse of the Year in 1951. I think he's as proud of that accomplishment as anything.
We talked about the implications for the Breeders' Cup all day, and of course this one primarily for the Classic. There are some horses not here today that will figure in that race.
There certainly are, Tom. You know, of course we didn't have a major turf race today, although the mile Kelso was a setup for the mile turf at Breeders' Cup. But certainly Sky Classic and Subotica, the winner of the Arc, will come for the Breeders' Cup Classic on the turf, the Breeders' Cup Classic on the dirt, Jolie's Halo, and St. Jovit, the great European horse, 3-year-old. Looks like he's going to come and might compete against the Americans on the dirt. There are some 2-year-olds, Eliza from the West Coast, Gilded Time from the West Coast. Certainly we didn't see a sprint today. Rubiano, the great Sheik Abadou, who won last year the sprint, and certainly the great distaff mare Passiano, who was not here today, but certainly will add a lot of flavor to the Breeders' Cup distaff.
Passiano, of course, will go postward in the Spinster Stakes at Keeneland tomorrow. What about the 3-year-olds here taking on the older horses in the Jockey Club Gold Cup in these weight-for-age conditions? What are the chances of 3-year-olds to beat older horses this time of year under those conditions?
The chances are very good. We see a lot of 3-year-olds that compete against older horses, but I don't believe today we've got 2 in the race that can do it.
And the call of Boots and Saddles, ushering the horses onto the racetrack for the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Let's recheck the odds now, and the fans having trouble selecting a favorite, as Sultry Song is still 3-1, making his late season bid for Horse of the Year honors. Strike the Gold, the Kentucky Derby winner of a year ago, at 7-2. Devil is Due, a 3-year-old, is 10-1 with blinkers off today. Thunder Rumble, the New York bred Travers winner, is 9-2. AP Indy returns to the track where he won the Belmont Stakes. He's the favorite at 5-2. Pleasant Tap, the very consistent one, is 7-2. And Missionary Ridge at 15-1 is the longest shot on the board. This race at 1.25 miles, and John, that brings up, of course, the awkward start of this race on the Belmont Oval.
It does. They start right in the middle of the far turn, and it is not the best either for the inside or the outside horses. It's somewhat of an angle to give everybody a fair break, but they are at somewhat of a disadvantage. But again, if you've got the horse, you can overcome the disadvantage.
You know, I can remember Unbridled did just that. He was in the outside post position for the Breeders' Cup Classic the last time it was here at Belmont Park. Came out of the gate with no problem in that awkward start and won impressively.
Yes, and I was foolish enough to think that it would harm his chances, and certainly he proved me wrong. But today, of course, we've got a spectacular feel for this race. There are a lot of questions that will be answered here, and the horse that comes out of this may well be the Breeders' Cup favorite in the Classic.
And could well go on to be Horse of the Year, especially if past history is any indication. 17 winners of the Jockey Club Gold Cup have gone on to take Horse of the Year honors in the voting at season's end. Many of these horses, 5 of them, as a matter of fact, competed in the Woodward Stakes here at Belmont Park a couple of weeks ago. And that was a race in which all of them, I guess all except Devil is Due, were right there with 1/8 of a mile to go.
Yes, it really was kind of a definitive test, because we've got probably 2 of the most authentic horses in this race. Sultry Song and Pleasant Tap were there.
Let's take a look at the horses now. Number 1 is Sultry Song. He has earned $1.5 million and making a bid for Horse of the Year. He won the Hollywood Gold Cup, the Whitney, and then a new dimension. He took the Woodward Stakes that we just mentioned in front-running fashion for it.
Yes, he did, which was kind of unusual for him, because that is not his style, but he has the tactical advantage to do almost anything today.
Strike the Gold, the 91 Kentucky Derby winner, has earned over $3.1 million. He's a one-dimensional horse, though he has to come from way back.
Yes, he does. But he won the Nassau County here earlier in the year on this type of racetrack, so you certainly can't discount him. If the law of averages catches up with him, he can throw a good one in any time.
Devil is Due, one of the 3-year-olds, won the Wood Memorial in the spring in New York. Pat Day looks for his 4th Gold Cup win, and trainer Alan Jerkins has pulled off some memorable upsets.
That's correct, and that's why Devil is Due cannot be discounted, because Alan Jerkins can do almost anything with any horse at any time.
Number 4, Thunder Rumble. He's the hottest 3-year-old in America since late summer anyway. A humble New York bred, won the Travers at Saratoga.
But he came up a little bit lacking in the Woodward. It didn't look like he had a terrible trip, but again, he might do well here.
AP Indy won the Belmont Stakes here, then had a 3-month vacation before a disappointing 5th in the Molson Million.
It's tough to come back after 3 months vacation, but this horse didn't train well for the Molson Million, and he has not trained well for this race, so it might be tough for him today.
Pleasant Tap is the 6th, very consistent. He's been worse than second only once this year. Won the Suburban here at Belmont, been away from the races until his second in the Woodward.
And the Woodward was a super race. He might well have needed that, and he certainly had to come out of it better than he went in.
And you see Missionary Ridge, trained by Bobby Frankel's, having a fine year. English bred, who was a front-running winner of the Pacific Classic at Del Mar. In fact, Missionary Ridge may be the only real speed in this race today. We'll see how it all plays out over a 1.25 miles at Belmont, the Jockey Club Gold Cup, when we return. We're back at Belmont Park, and a new favorite now for the Gold Cup. Sultry Song is the 5-2 favorite, with AP Indy now the second choice at 3-1. Pleasant Tap at 7-2 is third choice in the betting at the moment. Sultry Song, the fans' choice at the moment. Let's go to Bob and Dan.
All right, thank you very much, Tom Hammond. With me is Dan Kenny, and as John Veach pointed out, with the exception of Jolie's Halo and a sprinkle of Europeans, this will be about the same field in the Breeders' Cup Classic as we have here for the Gold Cup. And I know that the big marquee name is AP Indy, the 3-year-old. You saw him firsthand up in Toronto at Woodbine and the Molson. What'd you think?
He was ranked #1 among all the thoroughbreds in North America. That rating came down with a thud. It was an ordinary field. He should have been competitive, and he wasn't, and he's not coming into this first race against older horses on top of his game.
Oh, my second choice in the race would be Sultry Song. You want to talk about a Rodney Dangerfield. This horse has won 3 Grade 1 stakes, one at Hollywood. He paid $20 out here, bounced back and paid $17 in the Woodward, and he's a tepid, lukewarm favorite today. He'd be my second choice. How about another 3-year-old?
Well, another 3-year-old is Thunder Rumbles. He's a horse who has tried older horses twice and didn't beat him, but he gets 5 pounds today at 1.25 miles. That's significant, and sometimes the boy becomes a man. 3-year-olds can still develop and still be growing.
I think if you had to pin me down with a choice, I'd go for Pleasant Tap, though, Dan. A lot of things in his favor, I believe. A bang-up race in the Woodward off a 2-month layoff. The 1.25 miles should suit him perfectly. The off-track should be no problem. He's a consistent son of a gun. 9 races, I believe 4 wins in 5 seconds. Always gives you your money's worth.
What I like about Pleasant Tap is that he's been there ever since he was a 2-year-old. He keeps showing up, and Chris Speckert has him on really the top of his game, because in his last 6 starts, 3 wins, 3 seconds. He didn't used to be that consistent. I like him too.
And we haven't even mentioned Strike the Gold, who won the Nassau County under the same conditions a few months ago here at Belmont. For the Jockey Club Gold Cup, let's go to Tom Durkin.
There is the starting gate as it is placed on the clubhouse turn here at Belmont Park. That is the single distinguishing characteristic for 1.25 mile races here. The placement of that starting gate on the turn. Horses that drew outside are supposed they're at a bit of a disadvantage, but as we mentioned before, Unbridled won from post position number 14. With a short field here today, shouldn't make much difference at all. Big race here, a step toward the Breeders' Cup Classic, and indeed a big step toward Horse of the Year. AP Indy, the winner of the Belmont Stakes here. Pleasant Tap won the Suburban at 1.25 miles. And there's the expected front runner, Missionary Ridge, moving into post 7.
1 second, Frank, 1 second.
In the gate, awaiting the start of the Jockey Club Gold Cup. They're off. AP Indy stumbled, leaving the starting gate, and he is checked about 4 lengths off the early lead, and the early leader will be Devil His Due. Devil His Due has the lead. Missionary Ridge, Kent DeSormo riding aggressively early. He would like to have the lead as they round the clubhouse turn. Sultry Song is away at third toward the inside. Thunder Rumble to his outside. 5 lengths back to stretch runners, Strike the Gold and Pleasant Tap. And after a calamitous start, AP Indy trails the field. He is already a dozen lengths off the lead. The pace is strong. The opening quarter went in 23 1/5 seconds. And it's Devil Is Due with the lead. Missionary Ridge pressing second. Thunder Rumble is kept close to the pace. And Sultry Song is taken to his outside for a clear aim. A gap of 6 lengths. Back to Pleasant Tap. And farther back, Strike the Gold. He's now about a dozen lengths from the lead. AP Indy, no factor at all yet. The half went in 46 1/5 seconds. 5 furlongs from home. Long shot, Devil Is Due leads the way. Kent DeSormo still trying for that lead with Missionary Ridge. Thunder Rumble's in a perfect spot. Sultry Song is right there, and he's been taken to the inside now. 3 lengths back to Pleasant Tap, was drawn within 6 lengths of the lead. Another 2.5 back to Strike the Gold. AP Indy's been well behind the whole way. It's still Devil Is Due. Missionary Ridge couldn't stay with him. Sultry Song is right there. Pleasant Tap with a spectacular move toward the lead on the outside, and Strike the Gold appears with him. AP Indy is making a miraculous run from well back, and the field is now turning for home. Pleasant Tap, Strike the Gold right there. Sultry Song was really clobbered at the rail. AP Indy is there on the far outside. They're passing the 8th pole. It's Pleasant Tap with the lead by 3. Strike the Gold second. AP Indy is laboring now as his bid flattens out, but it will be Pleasant Tap, and he does it with style. He won by 4.5. Strike the Gold was second. AP Indy was a very good third after that horrible start. And toward the inside, Sultry Song photos with him. The time for the race, outstanding, 1 minute 58 and 4/5 seconds. It was not a cleanly run race. AP Indy went to his knees at the starting gate, and Sultry Song got clobbered at the 8th pole by a tiring Devil His Due. Back down to Tom Hepman after a real thriller here.
It was a thriller. Tom Durkin and Pleasant Tap, the consistent one who had come off a layoff to finish second in the Woodward. And here's the start. AP Indy now is in post position 5. Squeezed between the two horses on either side of him, Pleasant Tap and Thunder Rumble. And look how far, he's on the left of your screen. Look how far behind the others he is. Yet it's AP Indy now on the left of your screen on the extreme outside that does get up to finish third. Sultry Song here on the rail can't get through. Jerry Bailey took him to the inside. He can't get through, and it leaves it all open for Pleasant Tap, who takes the lead here and begins to draw away. Pleasant Tap now with clear sailing after Gary Stevens kept him out of trouble. Improving off his second in the Woodward, runs back to the Suburban Handicap win here at Belmont in June. And Pleasant Tap, with a big victory, establishes himself as the favorite for the Brewer Classic with an impressive win in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. An eventful race. We'll talk more about what happened to AP Indy and to Sultry Song when we return to Belmont Park. Welcome back to Belmont Park after the Jockey Club Gold Cup, and instead of answering a lot of questions, we've raised some more. John Beach, what about Sultry Song down on the rail?
He gets absolutely eliminated at about the 3/16th pole. The tiring horse lays right on top of him. The number 3 horse, Devil Is Due, and just absolutely takes any chance of his winning away from him, giving Pleasant Tap a free and clear run home. It certainly doesn't answer any questions, as you just said.
And of course, making his familiar come from behind charge, Strike the Gold. Didn't quite get there, but finished second. And what about AP Indy's race? As you look at Pleasant Tap, AP Indy absolutely dead last, trailing the field by a considerable margin, and yet does get up for third.
You can't certainly take anything away from the winner, but that was a brilliant, brilliant performance by AP Indy. I mean, being virtually eliminated at the start, back 6-8 lengths, very, very quickly responding to it.
Let's go down to Dan Kenny in the winner's circle.
Chris Speckert, you have developed this horse into probably the most consistent handicap horse in a decade. He was good at 2, he's good at 3, good at 4, and probably at his best at 5.
And he'll be better at 6, don't worry.
Okay, well, looking into the future, what do you do between now and Breeders' Cup? What are your plans?
Luckily, we never had a training match, and we'll just take it easy and just hope he can handle it there as well. He's obviously the best around, you know.
The fact that Eddie Delahousie took off and Gary Stevens took them out, did it bother you that he had a new rider?
No, obviously you prefer a rider that's known the horse, but Gary's one of the leading riders in the country, probably one of the best right now. So what are you worried about?
It was a... Well, let's speaking of Gary Stevens, let's go over to Gary with Bob Newmeyer.
All right, thank you very much. This is a funny game, Gary Stevens. A couple of months ago, you weren't on this horse, but then Eddie Delahousie goes to AP Indy. You wind up on the winner in an incident right out of the starting gate.
Right, Missionary Ridge, he ducked in pretty good leaving the starting gate, kind of took myself and AP Indy out of it the first couple of strides, but other than that, I had a real pretty trip all the way around there, and it's just funny the way this business goes. Like you said, Eddie's been with AP Indy all year long, been with my horse all year long. Eddie felt that his loyalties were lying with AP Indy, and that's who he stayed with, and I just feel very fortunate to get to ride a horse like this.
This horse had the reputation of being a late-running sprinter, and Chris Speckert has done a great job stretching him out. He's as honest as the day is long.
Tremendous job with him. This horse put in a phenomenal kick the last 1/8 of a mile. It came into the stretch. I had a lot of horse underneath me. I called on him, and he really responded willingly.
Gary Stevens, the happy guy, the winner of the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Let's go to Tom Hammond.
All right, Bob, another one of those racing ironies. Eddie Delahousie had ridden Pleasant Tap the last 8 times he started. He's aboard the third-place finisher, AP Indy, today. The results are official. Pleasant Tap paying $8.80 to win the Jockey Club Gold Cup, with Strike the Gold and AP Indy second and third. We'll be back in a moment.
This has been NBC's Sports World, and today it was brought to you by John Nuveen and Company, quality tax-free investment since 1898. By Canon, the #1 copier company and the new power and high-volume copying. By Delta Airlines. At Delta, we love to fly, and it shows. And by Toyota and their full line of quality cars and trucks. Toyota, I love what you do for me.
Belmont Park in the gloaming after a thrilling Jockey Club Gold Cup. Pleasant Tap certainly is for real, John, but as we said a few moments ago, the results of this race leave me anyway with some unanswered questions because of the rough way the race was run.
Oh, they certainly do. There's no doubt that there was not any answers to any questions today. This will make the Breeders' Cup Classic that much better. We're going to see an added starter or two, and we're going to have a real battle on the Breeders' Cup Day in the Classic.
Okay, let's get the impressions of our other commentators. Let's go first to Dan and Bob.
All right, thank you very much. If you don't think there's a lot of luck involved in racing, take the case of Gary Stevens, who didn't even have this mount a couple of weeks ago. Delahousie goes to AP Indy, and Gary Stevens takes home the money.
It's interesting how it works both ways. Gary Stevens rode Gilded Time, the future book favorite for the juvenile, then took off him to ride another horse. Chris McCarron picked up the mount. So it's a horse game, it's a jockey game, a jockey agent game.
And boys, the Chinese food is on us tonight. Mr. Kenny and I have split the pick 6 today at Belmont Park. Congratulations, friend.
Bob, I owe it all to you. Now, where's the ticket?
Let's get the egg rolls. Let's go to Gail Gardner. Gail?
Okay, Bob, thank you very much. I think what struck me today is that outside of auto racing, this sport is the one that knows perhaps no age or gender, and that includes the jockeys and the trainers and the owners and the horses. Julie Crone is right up there with the best male jockeys. You have a Steve Cawthon winning a Triple Crown at age 18. Jean Cruguet, also a Triple Crown winner. He is still racing at age 53. And of course, it's just a terrific sport. It's a non-discriminatory sport, and that's what struck me the most. Let's go to Tom Hammond.
All right, Gail, and no gloating from Bob and Dan after that pick 6. Here's the way the day went. Shared Interest, Educated Risk, Roman Envoy, Saratoga Do, Sea Hero, and Pleasant Tap, the winners on Breeders' Cup Preview Day at Belmont Park. And so Pleasant Tap caps an exciting day with a win in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. Remember, tomorrow NBC Sports presents an exciting NFL doubleheader beginning at 12:30 Eastern with NFL Live. Check your local listings for the game and time in your area. Today you saw some of the best American prospects for the Breeders' Cup. Next Saturday, the top European horses are showcased in the Chiga Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe beginning at 3 p.m. So for John Veach, Tom Durkin, Gail Gardner, Bob Newmeyer, and Dan Kenny, this is Tom Hammond saying so long from Belmont Park.